What is going on? It is week 13 in Daily Fantasy DraftKings. Of course, it is the Thanksgiving slate, so we have a special show tonight. On Wednesday night, we are breaking down both the Thanksgiving slate and the main slate. Of course, we're giving you our top plays, our values, and our stacks, our locks of the week, and of course, our favorite segment, the sick call of the week, so stay tuned.
Going for two, kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two, sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this, multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo! This is the armchair, yeah. Put up your arms, yeah. Sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo!
What is going on? It is the Thanksgiving slate, as I mentioned at the top. Of course, we are here usually on Friday nights at 10:30, but we're on Wednesday night tonight. We're on the Going4 2 Live Podcast Network. We're on Twitch. We're on YouTube. We're on GoingFor2.com, of course, syndicated at all major podcast networks. If you're on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. Helps us out a ton. I'm here with both my co-hosts, almost without one of my co-hosts, almost because he got the time messed up, but Tim's here. What's up, Tim?
Oh, yeah, I'm here. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. As you always say, it's one of our favorite shows we do all year. So, yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. And Gerson, I told him 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. Somehow he got that time mixed up, and he didn't know we had a show until about 5 minutes ago. So, Gerson, what's up, man?
Man, I knew we had a show. I just didn't know we had it at this time, you know?
Fair point.
Yeah, I probably would have shown up at the end of the show, be like, what's up, guys? And you guys are like, don't worry, G. We still got like 20 minutes.
Just in time for your favorite segment.
Man, I'm pretty excited. It's like one of my favorite holidays. You know, you have the 3F. You got football, family, and
Food.
Yeah. Football, family, and food, man. Can't go wrong with that. I wish there was like another way to say drinking too, but you can't put that in there.
Yes. All right. We got some people in the chat. We got Scott. What's up, Scott? In the chat. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, sir. Austin's in the chat. He told me he'd be here. He was on Facebook. So welcome to the show, Austin. All right, let's go ahead and kick it off with the weekly rewind.
The weekly rewind. Rewind.
All right, Tim, let's go to you first here. Give me your one good, one bad.
Yeah, my one good was Jahmyr Gibbs. I said last week felt like a Jahmyr Gibbs week, so I was heavily on him. It did work out pretty well for me. Unfortunately, I picked like the worst tight end play last week, which was Hunter Henry. Literally everyone around him went off. Every other tight end went off except for Hunter Henry. So that was definitely what kept me out of the big money last week. But I still had a pretty good week. I think about 3x my buy-in.
Yeah, good. Yeah, Hunter Henry did screw me on a couple of my tournament lamps as well. So he was pretty high on tight end and did not do anything at all. Gerson, what you got for your one good, one bad?
My one good was Bucky Irvin. I named him as a value. Was one of the one-off from Brian Robinson and Kareem Hunt. My one bad was all my quarterbacks. I think this is the second time this year this actually happened. And it's kind of frustrating because I give advice, you know, and I tell you guys, play these quarterbacks. I don't just talk to talk. I play them, you know, and it's kind of like, it like dampened my day, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but luckily made some money on some pick 'em, won a lot of money back. But I don't know, man. Hopefully this like changes everything, man, because I don't want to go 3 times on picking bad quarterback.
Yeah. So my one good, and I stick to my one good on calls that I made on the show. I actually made a really good call. Me and Tim talked about it pre-show that I didn't talk about on the show, so I didn't want to put it in my one good. But I switched to Trey McBride right before the start of the games, which crushed a lot of my lineups. I mean, he just absolutely smashed. I won a tournament that we run with the group of us called the lunch money tournament. I won that. Won all my cash lineups with that lineup. So, but my one good that I actually gave out on the show was my stack. I had Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, and I brought it back with Jacoby Myers. Was one of my best stacks in my tournaments. I was able to stack some guys around those players, and they did really well for me. My one bad, and I mentioned it on the show, that I took Kittle out of my player pool because of the quarterback change, and I shouldn't have. I should have stuck with the
Right.
quarterback. Obviously, going to be going to his tight end more than anything, and Kittle had a really good game. So having zero Kittle after I was probably going to lock him in last week before the quarterback change, and then taking him out of my player pool completely kind of messed me up a little bit. But overall, great week. I had a great lineup that I smashed in my cash lineup, and it won some tournament lineups as well. So now we're going to go ahead and jump right into the Thanksgiving slate. And the way we do this, we do a little bit different than our main slate. We're just going to go game by game. So we'll kick it off here with the first game, Bears at Lions. The total when I last looked at it was 48.5, and the Lions are favored by 10. Tim, give me a couple of your plays from this game.
Yeah, I have it at 47.5, but either way, like it's right there among the best, the two best games on the slate, right? I think it's funny. Not really funny. We all have the same top guy here, which is Jared Goff, or as we like to call him, Home Goff. I really appreciate DraftKings once again making the pricing here affordable to where you can really play kind of what you want on this slate. The highest priced quarterback is 6,500, so I'll be playing a lot of Jared Goff. I think, he'll obviously be popular, as we were talking in the pre-show. Everybody's popular on a 3-game slate. There's no way around it. But I do think there are some ways to get a little bit different with Jared Goff. But he is the quarterback I have the highest ceiling on, which is why I definitely want to play him in tournaments.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Like, love some home golf. Gerson, what about you? Give me one of your favorite plays here from this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite overall player in this game is Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, and only it's gonna be a cold game too. So it's just Jahmyr Gibbs is getting all the volume, all the touches, and I don't know what was exactly Monty's injury last week. Was it his leg concussion? What did he get?
Shoulder. It was a shoulder.
Shoulder, right?
Yeah, but he came back in though.
Yeah, so I don't know how much workload they're going to put with him. And to be honest, there's only two ways I can see this game going. It's either a full-on blowout, or it's going to be competitive. I mean, I know they're a rivalry game, but I don't see an in-between this game. I see a full-on blowout or a competitive game where it's going back and forth. But I'm going to target Gibbs, 7.5K. He has pass receiving upside. He's one of the best runners in the league. He just doesn't get the highest volume like other people,
Yeah.
I honestly think he's probably top 5 runner in this league if he got the volume.
Sure.
Yeah, 100% agree. So Tim went with a quarterback. Gerson went with the running back. I'm going to go with a receiver that I like a lot, Mr. Roma Dunze at 5K. 2 weeks in a row now, he's got 10 targets. He hasn't put up a lot of fantasy points with those 10 targets. Yardage wasn't there. Didn't score any touchdowns. But in a slate like this, 5K for a receiver saves you some good cash, so you can pay up for some of those higher price guys. So Roma Dunze at 5K flat is a pretty good play for me.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw a stat out there that said that out of his last 2 games, only 4 of those catches were catchable.
Catchable, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's pretty pathetic. I mean, I love the target. Don't get me wrong, and I do believe he's cheap though, so I love the call.
Yeah. I think if you're playing the Bears passing game at all, I think it's the passing option you want. I do think there's one other guy that's pretty cheap too as well.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that y'all both had Odunze, because when I was filling out my sheet, I thought the hardest decision, maybe the hardest decision on the slate, there's another one we'll talk about in a minute, is DJ Moore versus Keenan Allen. Because I think they both schematically set up really well here. Keenan Allen obviously gets the Detroit slot matchup. He's also better against man. But I feel like DJ Moore has been getting more of the manufactured targets lately. And that's what I think will be, that guaranteed volume is what gets me here. So I don't know, guys. Go ahead.
I love how you said we're going to talk about it in a minute. You talked about it in a second.
No, I said there'll be another close call that we'll talk about in a minute. But
Yep.
I'm saying I think there are two wide receiver decisions you have to make on this slate. The first of which is Keenan versus.
I thought you
DJ
meant in
Moore.
the game. My bad. I was like,
No.
I thought
On
we
the
were going
slate.
game by game, but
No. But anyway, I think that's the tough part because Detroit gets killed by wide receivers, right? But they don't give up a ton of points to quarterback. And so, like, I was actually going to say, I think Caleb is too cheap. But then if you look at, because I'm seeing him pop in a lot of optimals.
Yeah.
And I'm going back and forth on Caleb because 5,300 is a great price. He's $500 more than Cooper Rush, right? And he gets but again, Detroit bottom, I think, 6th in terms of quarterback points. So, I mean, you're not going to get a game here, and that's really what you're looking for. So,
Yep.
Give you an idea. I mean, if people don't know what sims are, it's basically the most optimal stuff that you can spit out for like what it's kind of predict what the whole slate is going to be. And on I have 3 sites that have sim. Caleb Williams was like basically like 40% on all across. So yeah,
I think first of all, I usually don't play cash. You guys know Cash Game King, right? I usually don't play cash on a 3-game slate. Okay, but I feel like if you do, you're playing Caleb as your cash quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think optimally it's going to show up in median projections, but it's tough for me to think he gets there in tournaments.
Yeah.
I'd rather just play. I'll tell you what I do think. I do think you can play 2 Bears receivers without having to play Caleb.
Yep.
Because I think they could on a 3-game slate get there, but basically anybody who plays Odunze and Allen or Odunze and DJ Moore are probably playing Keenan, right? So I think that's one way to get a little different.
Yeah, I like that, and I think too. A lot of times on the full game slate, there's certain combinations you don't want to have, but on a 3-game slate, there's things you can do different just to be different. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Play defense. That's
can
playing
I
against.
add something?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are probably going to play the Bears defense or the Detroit defense, but I'm telling you right now, you guys need to throw out that rule where you can't play a player against that defense in this slate. That should be one of the things you should be doing because it's a 3-game slate, guys.
Yep.
Don't include that rule.
Agreed.
Sorry, Geoff, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Let's see. Well, I'm just going to mention a couple more guys, and then we'll get down to some of the. I'm calling them sneaky plays because I don't know if there's any values truly on the slate. Because I mean, everyone's going to have ownership in a slate like this. But let me just mention a couple of other guys that we had. We did have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, 8,000 is pretty easy to click his name. David Montgomery, also a good play. And then I got Jameson Williams, who's your sort of receiver. He can have a monster game, on 3 catches essentially, and really kind of blow up the slate a little bit. So you have one more. You have a tight end there, Tim. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, Sam Laporta. I don't think. First of all, well, again, we're talking about context of the slate. I think this is a 3 running back slate. All right, me personally, I think there are 4 solid running back plays on the slate, and you're going to want 3 of them. But if I was going to run a 2 tight end lineup, the one I like is Sam Laporta because I feel like this is a good schematic matchup for him. And we talked about it earlier. Detroit is in, don't give a F mode, right? So, right, they will keep throwing it even when they're up. His volume hasn't been the best, but in the same spot, like he would normally be well over 5K, he's 4,100.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a volume play, but it's definitely a, millionaire big GPP play where I think Sam Laporta, could give you a 20, right, or an 18, and if that's the highest scoring tight end, then you got it, right? He's definitely going to project better than probably any wide receiver at 4,100, other than, well, maybe one guy we'll talk about later. But I don't like a lot of the cheap value on this slate, so I don't hate the idea of playing 2 tight ends.
Yeah, agreed. We'll move down into the sneaky plays, and one that I had listed here is Roschon Johnson at 4.5. I know Jamie's, I don't know if he's still in the chat or not. He was earlier. He's like Mr. Roschon Johnson. Swift has been dealing with a little bit of an injury. I think he'll play, but Roschon Johnson has been sort of the preferred red zone running back.
Goal line back, yeah.
So at 4.5, if he gets 2 touchdowns on 4 carries, at 4.5, you're still sitting pretty there with a guy that's probably gonna be pretty low owned because I think
Roshan Tolbert.
yeah, exactly. That's the kind of player he's end up becoming. So I like him a lot at 4.5. Tim and Gerson, you both have the same guy listed in your sneaky play there, and I like him as well. I'm gonna go to you, Gerson. Talk about Tim Patrick a little bit.
I mean, he's just 3.5K. I mean, that's pretty cheap. I think he's probably the cheapest value you can find. I mean, I don't think I listed another cheaper one.
Yeah.
Nope, I don't think I did. So, I mean, 3.5K if it's a blowout. I mean, obviously he's gonna get touches too. And if Amon-Ra St. Brown really is hurting like he is, which I doubt because Amon-Ra St. Brown's like he's just a dog, man.
Yeah.
He's gonna play through pain and everything. He just goes out there and perform. But yeah, just cheap play. Nothing. You're not exactly gonna put him in all your lineup. He's just gonna be, if you're running 100 rosters, you're probably gonna put him in 10.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to that on Tim Patrick, Tim?
No, not really. He should see additional run with Khalif Raymond out, but I mean, he's basically the cheapest guy you think won't give you a 0.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? Like,
all right, we'll move to the next game here. Giants at Cowboys. I got the total at 37 right now. Cowboys are favored by 3.5. And I'm going to go first here because I have an interesting talk on a guy it's showing up as, I believe, the third or fourth highest owned player on the slate. And that is Tracy, the running back for the Giants. I'm actually going to be fading Tracy, and I'm going to tell you why. If you go back and look at the game last week, in the third quarter, Tracy fumbled, lost the fumble, did not touch the ball again the rest of that game. Now, keep in mind, there were only 2 more running back carries the rest of that game and 1 target to a running back, and they went to somebody else other than Tyrone Tracy. I think Singletary got 2 carries. 1 of them went for a touchdown, and then Eric Gray had a target. So there wasn't a ton of volume going to any of the running backs at that point, but Tyrone Tracy wasn't one of the ones getting that volume. So there's a chance that the Giants have gotten over his little fumbling issues. The second game in a row he's fumbled and lost one. He actually lost the game when they were, I believe, in one of the international games. So I'm a little leery playing Tyrone Tracy. We haven't heard anything that he's being benched, but I would assume that they're going to put Singletary in there a little bit more. And he's $1,000 cheaper. I might click on Singletary's name and just hope that he gets some run. He's a solid running back. So I'm avoiding Tyrone Tracy at his price at 5.8 with the off chance that he might be seeing a reduced role because of his fumbles. Tim, let's go to you next.
Yeah, I think for me, this is the hardest game to project because you thought the Cowboys were just flat until last week. They had that crazy fourth quarter in Washington. So I'm going to take maybe the controversial take here that I like Cooper Rush more than Drew Lock in this game. I think if I'm stacking this game up, I'm stacking it on the Cowboys side. But I told you in the pre-show, Geoff, when I first ran my optimals, Cooper Rush came up as my optimal quarterback. And that tells you something about the quarterbacks that are on the slate. But I think it's really that I don't know that any of these quarterbacks have a real true ceiling. And so, last week we were saying you can't play this guy on a full slate, but on a 3-game slate, like if none of these quarterbacks give above 18 and Cooper Rush can get you 16, that may be what you need, right? So I don't know that I will be playing a lot of Cooper Rush, but I think he has to be in your player pool.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Gerson, what do you got for one of your favorite plays?
So I just love the fact that he had Cooper Rush going the other way, and I pointed the arrow the other way to Lock.
You did.
And then after that, it was Tracy with Rico. I was gonna mess around with Tim and put when he had his tight end, but then I'm like, I don't really care about either one of these tight ends.
No.
In this game, I like Drew Lock. I didn't know he was starting or might be starting until I was trying to put some prize pick slip, and I realized that he wasn't even in the prize pick pool, Tommy DeVito. And I was like, what is going on? And so I went and looked, and I'm like, oh, wow, they're really thinking of starting Drew Lock. Okay, that's cool. And I watched Drew Lock play, I think it was last year against Seattle. It was against Seattle, right? He played?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know the game he came in, and he looked pretty decent. He was on Seattle. He played for Geno, right?
Yep. Geno got
He came in, looked pretty decent. I think he's more decent than people think. Preseason, he did good. He's better than DeVito. I'll tell you this. He's a much better passer, rusher, just overall quarterback. But 4.5K. So the biggest reason is he's 4.5K on a slate like this. You want to pay for the stud. If there's a way you're going to be able to build a stud and dud lineup, it's by playing Drew Lock. I know that Rush is what 4.8. What is he? 4.8. But
a little bit more expensive. 4.8.
I just think the pass rush of the Giants will get after Rush more than the pass rush of the Cowboys will get after Lock.
Yeah.
I know that Micah Parsons there, but they're still dealing with a lot of injuries, and I think the Cowboys lost I swear they lost linemen. I don't know who's out, who's in, but it felt like every quarter last week, one of their linemen was getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I don't know how healthy they are on the line. Again, this is a short week, so we do limited research. I mean, it's kind of hard to look at everything and injury news, but obviously this is a Wednesday game for Thanksgiving. But give me Lock just for a $300 discount, but it could go either way. I think I'm targeting other quarterbacks though more on this slate than these two.
Yeah.
I think honestly my favorite play in this game is the Cowboys defense, and they will probably be the defense that I am the highest on this week. We finally saw a little bit, I guess for 3 quarters anyway, we saw a little bit of the Cowboys defense last week. I think they were optimal or one of the optimal defenses last week. But to me, I just, I know Drew Lock can sling it a little bit, but I just think this is a game where they just, take Malik Neighbors out and say, I dare you to beat us with Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. And I just don't think.
What about Wan'Dale Robinson? Is he dead?
He basically is, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's got one of the lowest ADOTs in the league. His yards after catch are abysmal. Yeah, he's basically a statue.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really want to play hardly anybody in this game other than CeeDee Lamb and Malik Neighbors. And those are the 2 wide receivers I alluded to at the top, right? I think there are 2 wide receiver decisions you had to make, and this is the other one.
Yeah.
Because I think you can play both. You can play Lamb and Neighbors, but I think the way the optimals are showing up for me is that you're probably playing one of these guys, right? You're playing one of the mid-price guys, and then you're probably paying down for one if you're going to fit in the 3 high-price running backs. So I like CD just because I think his volume is the most consistent. His ADOT is way down with Cooper Rush. Maybe Malik Neighbors is the better GPP play because Drew Lock will throw it downfield.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the one advantage of Drew Lock is he will sling it.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I don't know. I do love one narrative in the NFL.
Yeah.
When the wide receiver speaks out and talks shit, he usually comes out and has a big game.
Oh, Geoff had for that one, doesn't he?
Oh.
The squeaky wheel. There it is.
Oh, my bad. Were you supposed to talk about that?
No.
But yeah, man. Malik Neighbor came out there looking like Antonio Brown 2.0 in the making, maybe in the future. I don't know about that. Ask Dabo. I mean, rule number 1 as a player, don't throw your teams under the bus. Rule number 2, don't talk shit about your coach. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
And he's already done both of them in the first season. Talk shit about Daniel Jones, talk shit about Dabo. So he better back it up. Then maybe they did a little change, maybe they told him like, hey, you need if you want the ball, all right, we're gonna give it to you. But I do like CeeDee Lamb over Neighbors though, because 1, CeeDee Lamb is a much better superstar than Malik Neighbors, and 2, we've seen more report with Rush than we've seen Lock and Neighbors. So if I were to play one, it hands down be CeeDee Lamb at 7.3K. You'll never see CeeDee Lamb at 7.3K again.
No, it's just
it's way too cheap.
Tim, you have fade both tight ends in this slate. You're not playing either one of the tight ends.
I don't think so. I think there are too many good tight end plays on this slate to really mess with either one of these guys. I think Schoonmaker was a good play last week because he was min price, but he's not. And Theo Johnson's going to give you 6 points, maybe he falls in for a touchdown and gives you 12, but even then I don't see him being optimal. So yeah, I'm off both the tight ends in this game.
Agreed. Just mention the guys we didn't talk about. We mentioned a little bit, I guess, Rico Dowdle. He's a 5.
Oh yeah, he's the chalk play this week. He's going to be 50% owned. We were talking about that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's pretty insane to think about that. But yeah, he's the chalk. Let's move down into our sneaky plays here. I mentioned earlier Singletary, if you want to get sneaky and you think that Tyrone Tracy might be getting benched or at least a reduced role at 4.8. I like Singletary a lot. Tim, who do you like down here in the sneaky value range?
Oh, nobody. And I want to talk about it because I was really hoping Brandon Cooks wasn't going to play, but all indications are Brandon Cooks will play. And I think that really messes up the Cowboys' value receivers. Like, I was going to play a good bit of Jalen Tolbert at 3,800. I don't know that I can play him right now, nor do I think you can play Brandon Cooks at 4,500. Like, if you're doing 150 and you're just building a ton of Cooper Rush stacks, then maybe you take a shot. But man, I was really disappointed because I don't know that you can play any of these Cowboys value guys now.
Austin wants to know what about Slatron? Do you have any interest in Slatron?
Oh,
Tim's the Slatron whisperer here.
I am. I'm not feeling the Slatron this week. I want to, but honestly, I hate to say it. I would rather play the statue in the middle.
Yeah, fair enough. Gerson, what about you? What do you got down here for a sneaky play?
Just Wan'Dale Robinson at 4.7K. I mean, he's gonna get peppered to target if they have to keep. I don't see this game being like a shootout.
No,
I see it more like an ugly game, like maybe like 20-17. You know,
like 12 to
yeah. I'll be honest, I'm not even that confident in that score either. But Robinson 4.7K. But again, I don't really. This game it's either the running backs or the two wide receivers that I'm targeting the most. And I'm not talking about Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm talking about Neighbors and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. All right, let's move to the next game here. Dolphins at Packers. I got the total at 47 with the Packers favored by 3.5. Mm-hmm. I think a big part of this here is with the Dolphins side of things is I believe that the high is 28 degrees in Green Bay. And we know the Dolphins don't really do so well. We saw it last year in the Kansas City game. They're not so good in the cold. So that's something to take into effect when you're picking some of these players. But Gerson, why don't you kick us off here with one of your favorite plays out of this game?
So this is probably the game I'm going to have the most exposure to. I love this game. Probably the funnest game you're going to watch all day too. I know people are excited about the Bears and Lions, but I'm more excited about the Packers Dolphins. 47 total. I just think, to me, my favorite player is going to be Jaden Reed. He's 5.7K. He's too cheap. He's probably the best value wide receiver on the slate for me. I mean, I do believe that CeeDee Lamb is number one, but if I'm going like lower than 6K, for me, it's Jaden Reed. I get that he's been having an issue with getting volume, but I think this is a game where he's going to have a bigger game than usual. The Dolphins, their offense needs to do better though. Like I feel like you face the Raiders, dude. Relax. Yeah. Like anybody can score on the Raiders, and Jonnu Smith is breaking out. I think it's starting to get along. They're starting to get along, and I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Jonnu Smith breaking out because it reduces the wide receivers. But I don't really care. I just want points. I want a high-paced game, and this is the game that's going to get it. He's my favorite player though, for sure, in this game.
Yep. I like that call. I had Reed on my sheet as well. I think he's my favorite Packers receiver. But I'm going to echo what Gerson said about Jonnu Smith. He's, in my opinion, by far the best tight end play on the slate. At 4,300, he's just too cheap for the kind of volume. He should be 5,000 if it wasn't a Thanksgiving slate. Mm-hmm. I think, like I said, I'm not playing cash, but I think if you are, he's the easy plug it in 4,300 and move on. But I agree. The first thing I put on the sheet is that I love game stacks. Right. A lot of times on these short slates, the best thing to do is just stack up one game. And I think this is by far the most fun, the most likely to be a 60-point total, right? That you need where you have to have 4, 5, 6 pieces of the game in the optimal. So I agree. I'm going to have a ton of Jordan Love stacks. I'm going to have a ton of Tua stacks. I think this is the game that you can have a little fun with, right? Trying to stack things up different ways and get creative.
Agreed. I'll go to the running back, Achane. Of course, he's been a must play the last couple of weeks, and I did mention the cold weather. When it's cold like that, quarterbacks that don't like to play in the cold tend to keep the ball short. They over the middle type stuff, screen plays. He's not going to be throwing the ball down the field. So Achane obviously falls right into that category at 7.7. He's been a monster the last couple of weeks. We talked about his receiving ability. Tua targets the hell out of him. I think he's had 7 or more targets in every game that Tua has started in. So Achane at 7.7 is probably one of the first plays I'm gonna click on when I'm build my lineups and start from there and then build around him. So he's my favorite play in this game for sure. We'll go back through Tim. Give us another one of your guys.
Yeah, I think my favorite running back is actually Josh Jacobs. I was looking this up over the last 4 weeks. The Packers are actually last in the NFL at pass rate over expectation. It is crazy. They have just moved to a full-on Josh Jacobs. Like, it reminds me of the Raiders offense for like portions of last year, right? Where they were like, oh, the only decent piece we have is Josh Jacobs. Let's just run him 20 times a game. But I agree, right? I think in the event that Tua does not come out strong, the Dolphins come out slow, and the Packers can put up a score easy, I think they will run Josh Jacobs 20 plus times. And I know they said, oh, we gave him too much work in the last game. We don't want to do it on a short week. No. Okay. This isn't going to be Emmanuel Wilson or, Aaron Brooks, whoever. Like, no, this is going to be the Josh Jacobs show if they get a lead. And so I love Achane. I think, again, we usually say you don't play 2 running backs from the same game. These are 2 of my favorite running back plays on the slate. Like, I don't know how you get around that.
Yeah.
Just play him and move on.
And the good thing about having Achane, if it goes the way you think it's going to go, if the Packers get up early and run Jacobs to death and get a lead, Achane is the pass catcher. So even if the Dolphins are in catch-up mode, they're still going to have Achane in there. He's still going to catch passes, so he still has value. Whereas if it's the other way around, where if the Dolphins get up, Josh Jacobs isn't quite as involved in the passing game. So yeah, that's
very true.
Let's see. I mentioned a couple more guys that we got. Tyreek Hill is always playable at 6.9. I'm not sure if I love it. I think if I'm playing a receiver, I'm probably going to go with Waddle at 5.4. I mentioned again that when quarterbacks don't like playing in the cold, they tend to go with the shorter over the middle type stuff, and that's where Waddle plays. Finally had a break game last week, so he's much cheaper than Tyreek Hill is. We'll move down into the sneaky value range, and we have all the same guys here. So, Tim, I'm gonna give it to you since this is your team. Talk about your boy Wicks.
Yeah, Dontavian Wicks, man. So Romeo has been ruled out of this game. Whenever he's been out, their alignment tends to be Christian Watson, Jaden Reed in the slot, and then Dontavian Wicks on the right side. Basically an every down player, right? They will mix in a little bit of Bell Melton and Malik Heath, but it's really those 3 wide receivers. And so I think Wicks is the best value at 4,200. And he is projecting well enough that he, found his way into my optimal. But I think that's what you're looking for on this slate. Like I talked about earlier, you're going to be playing Neighbors or Lamb, probably CeeDee Lamb, play one of those Bears wide receivers. And then you're looking for a third value wide receiver. You'll probably be playing Watson or Wicks. I think I prefer Wicks.
Yeah, I like that. And then you have your tight end there. You have 2 tight ends, so you're playing both tight ends from this game.
So that's what I was saying earlier. I don't really love a lot of the value plays here. I talked about how much I really like the running back, so I probably won't be playing a lot of 2 tight ends. But I do think that this could be a little bit more of a craft game. And I really think it's more just I should have put this as a pivot off Jonnu because I do think he's going to be the overwhelming chalk. And so if he only gets 8-9 points, then you're really looking to who that other guy is. So I think it could be Kraft, but I'll be way overexposed on Jonnu too.
Yeah, and the thing with the 3-game slate too is, we talk about being different on a main slate. On a 3-game slate, you really have to be different.
Yeah.
Sometimes just playing 2 tight ends is different
Not enough. Yeah.
It's something to look at, for this 3-game slate.
One thing I did want to mention real quick is that I think most of the ownership for defense will be concentrated on the Cowboys and the Lions. And I think a lot of people will be looking over the Packers here. In the event that game does go south and it ends up being a dud, like an 18-15 kind of game, the Packers D will come way under-owned. So normally I would not tout the Packers D with how bad they've been recently, but we've seen actually there was a game, I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago, where Tua got concussed against the Packers and then just started throwing the ball to the defense. He had 3 turnovers and a half.
Yeah.
Right. If we could see something like that, again, on a 3-game slate, if a defense scores a pick 6 or a fumble recovery for a touchdown, You have to have that defense.
Yep.
Right. So if everybody has the Lions and everybody has the Cowboys, like they're $100 cheaper from the Cowboys, that could be the pivot that makes a difference.
Yeah, agreed 100%. All right, that is it for the Thanksgiving slate. We're going to jump right into the main slate. Now, obviously, it's Wednesday night, so there's still some news that we don't get that we usually have on Friday nights when we do the show. So we'll do our best to sort through that as well. Let's go ahead and get to the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, right here at the top, Gerson, give me one of your favorite quarterbacks from this slate.
I thought you were gonna go back to Tim because I swear he fucking did the whole fucking Packer game. No, I'm just kidding with you, man. Yeah. There's a lot of things we love on DFS, but the number one thing we love is Monday night pricing and Sunday night pricing. And Justin Herbert has that pricing. So, guys, Gus, I mean, rest in peace, J.K. Dobbins. I don't know what knee ligament you still have left, but dude, yeah, the running game has taken a little derail to the Gus bust, I guess you can say. But I believe Harbaugh is a smart coach. He'll use what he has on the field to the best of his ability, and your best of your ability right now is Justin Herbert. I mean, I swear though, if there is a tryout this weekend on Thanksgiving for a wide receiver, Quentin Johnson, you are not invited because you probably won't even make the team for the Turkey Bowl. Yeah. You can't catch worse crap. But if Herbert had wide receivers that can catch, then he'd probably be even much better play. But his pricing is incredible. 5.6K. Yeah. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to him. His ownership is the number one right now. Yeah. It is early, though, so don't take ownership into anything at all. And we still got injury news coming in from the rest of the week. And, someone's going to get food poisoning, so you better watch out. For sure. Someone ate those green bean casseroles, But no, Herbert 5.6K against Atlanta's defense. Atlanta's defense was supposed to be a lot improved, and I don't really see it as much as I thought. AJ Terrell's kind of taking a little, I don't know, he's not as elite as he was last year. But that defense secondary, I mean, they brought in the Justin Simmons guy. He's decent, but he hasn't done as well as he's done in Denver. I just think Herbert's going to sling it. I don't think they're really going to go ride the Gus bus. I mean, he didn't look very impressive for me. They're probably going to bring Kamani Vidal into the backfield, and he's a pass catching running back. He's not really like a bruiser or anything like that. Yeah. But give me him. His stacks are really, really cheap too. So I expect a lot of ownership to go that way direction with his pass catchers. But again, we're getting that Monday night pricing, so ride it, man.
Love it. Tim, what you got for your favorite?
Yeah, I agree with Gerson. Justin Herbert does come out as my number one value quarterback, but number two, Sam Darnold. Man, last couple of weeks, people have been talking a lot of trash, and he's put up two consistent 24-point performances against two pretty decent pass defenses in Tennessee and Chicago. And now he gets to come back home against Arizona. This just feels like a classic blow-up spot. And I think, at 5,900, he's 300 more than Herbert. I think he will go a little bit overlooked in this spot. Usually, same kind of thing we said about home golf a few weeks ago, that if you have a quarterback who's been struggling a little bit, who gets a solid home matchup, he's just going to throw the ball, 40 times. I also sneak peek. I think this could be a big JJ return to action game. So I will be stacking up the Vikings this week.
Yeah, I like it. My favorite play, the first one I noticed when I look at the slate was Jalen Hurts, 7.7 at Baltimore. Baltimore has been giving up a ton of passing yards. They're giving up the most points to quarterbacks, I think, on the year at 32 points. The 32nd overall in DVOA as well. So at 7.7, Hurts is a little expensive. But I do think you can fit him in with some of the value that we're going to have on this slate. And obviously, he's got the rushing ability that gives you that nice little floor. He gets those touchdowns. And, of course, Baltimore's defense has been absolutely trash. Gerson, you got Matthew Stafford there. Talk about him at 5.8.
Yeah. So Stafford was. Hold on, let me pull up my notes on him. And I lost my notes. Great. I was toggling. There they are.
New Orleans sucks. No.
Well, we know that, but
I know.
I think it's more about the volume they're passing the ball. And Puka Nakua, he is all right, man. I've for the longest time said, all right, I got to see it to believe it. I believe it. The guy's just a playmaker. He's
Yeah.
honestly just very, very good. I don't know how he makes some of these catches that he makes. He's out there with long hair, looking like a poly boy, like yeah, man. But he's just the real deal. But his price 5.6K, right?
Yeah,
Stafford
5.8.
uh, doesn't make it that hard to stack with Nakua or Cup. And I'm probably gonna do one if I do one or the other. Right now, just with Cup, I believe his price is like 6 point what
No, he's 74.
7.4. Holy
Yeah,
crap! I didn't know he was that high. But yeah, I probably want Nakua over Cup though.
agreed.
I feel like he's getting targeted a lot more, and Cup looks like he's taking a little. He's not as fast as he used to be, or as quick.
Yeah,
I
Quick.
I
mean,
agree.
I mean, DFS darling legend, but Nakua the new guy.
Yeah,
Um, the thing with me is that what I love about Stafford, you know who he's gonna target.
correct.
Yep.
Right away. We're not gonna do it ever again. That will never happen again, Davis Allen. We're done with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we will never do that again. But his ownership was the biggest thing that I was looking at. He's only 3% owned
true.
against the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans Saints don't have Marcus Lattimore. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Marcus Lattimore. That defense taking a big regression. I know they played pretty well under the new coach, but it wasn't like an impressive game for me. I think McVay going to come in, and that Monday night pricing again 5.8K, man.
Yep.
Yeah,
They have it. They have a pretty good implied total. I think if I can get to it, 26.
mm-hmm.
26 points. That's pretty high, So like, um, I'm gonna have exposure to that game. If I can get it at that ownership to stay on Sunday, I think he's gonna be one of my favorite GPP plays.
Yeah, I love it. I'll just mention the last two guys I had on my list. I had Baker Mayfield at Carolina at 6.6, and the revenge narrative, Gerson's favorite thing. And then I
Oh
had
man,
Anthony Richardson too at New England at 5.5. Obviously, the rushing ability there had a career high in rushes last week, 10 rushes for 61 yards, I believe, if I remember correctly. So yeah, if he's getting that kind of rushing, if we can put any kind of passing yards together at all, I think he'll be good, and it's got a good matchup there. So I do like him.
Shout out to Baker doing the Tommy DeVito last week, by the way.
Yeah, that was pretty sick.
he's awesome, dude. That guy's awesome.
All right, let's get to tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
I'll go first here because I only have one tight end listed as my favorite tight end, and that's Evan Ingram at 4.8. And this is only if Trevor Lawrence plays,
I
which
think he
like
does.
he's going to play.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram, obviously, when T-Law plays, is one of his most targeted players. We know Christian Kirk's not going to be there, so at 4.8 versus Houston, I like Evan Ingram a lot in T-Law's return, and he's really the only tight end.
Real quick before we move on, we've talked about it over this year. There have been some ugly tight end slates, but this is a pretty ugly tight end slate. Like three of the best tight ends are on the Thursday slate, and another the best tight end, right, maybe is on the Friday slate. Like when I was looking over these tight ends, I was like, dude, these are my options. I literally, guys, and pull back the curtain. Me and Gerson have no value tight ends this week.
Yep.
There's nobody we want to play. Like it is that ugly. So
It's pretty
sorry,
ugly.
go ahead.
Nope, that's all I got for my favorite play. Tim, go ahead and give us a couple of your guys because you and Gerson don't have even the same guys.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's ugly. I will take the one guy Gerson did not put, and it's the guy that let me down last week, and that was Hunter Henry. I think I will probably go back to him this week. I think that he's still a big part of this offense, right? I think he's the most consistent part of the offense, and I think it's also a good schematic matchup, right? I think they're playing the Colts, I believe, and the Colts give up, I think, 20% more points to tight ends over expectation. We also see that most of the good tight end or most good games Hunter Henry have had has also been at home. So it's a couple of things coming together, but he's still a punt, right? You're hoping for 7 for 70 and he falls in for a touchdown. So I don't know. I think the other two guys that I almost like better than Henry, but he
Yeah.
was the one Gerson didn't have.
All right, Gerson, talk about one of the other guys.
Will Disley. Again, I talked about Justin Herbert. Will Disley is that tight end. He targets a lot. I know a lot of people probably don't even know who he is, but we do because we play him. We play Dynasty and we're nerds. But
I know him as the guy who sat behind Noah Fant. No.
yeah, for years,
For years.
and then I also know him as the guy that sat behind Gerald Everett and just a bunch of guys. And whoever he sat, well, who was he sitting behind? He became the starter, Geoff. Yeah.
You hear that Jimmy Graham was there? Wasn't he there when Jimmy Graham was there?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, 4 point K. Disney's been getting targeted quite a bit too. Like it's not just like what do you call it? Fluke.
Yeah.
So he have had games with Herbert already. 18 points against Cincinnati. So he. The other thing is the attention is going to be on two other wide receivers. One of them dropped the ball. The other one's really good at actually catching the ball. But it looks like Herbert, like if you watch that game on Monday Night Football, Disley was one of his favorite targets, just like get rid of the ball right away. And they run a lot of mesh route. I mean, he got 4 targets. But the thing is to me, this tight end's like so ugly. So if you are going to play a tight end, like you might as well target him with your stack, you know?
Yes.
If you do a one-off, then you're just hoping for a Hawkinson touchdown or I mean, you're gonna have to. There is one other guy I do really like, and Geoff has him, and he also got the Monday night pricing. So kudos to him. I'm glad he came back alive this season too. But yeah, I'd rather have him over Disley though for sure.
Yeah, I'll mention the other two guys that you mentioned, Disley, but then we have K. Dot and T.J. Hawkinson also there as some of our plays for tight end. And the guy you were talking about, I actually have as the only salary saver guy. At 3.9, it's kind of weird to see Mark Andrews down there. He hasn't been Mark Andrews at all this year. I think last week he did pretty well, had a touchdown, had 5 targets, caught all 5 for 44 yards. But on a slate, like we mentioned, with these tight ends being so ugly, he's probably, at 3.9, the cheapest of the guys that I'd want to play. So if I can get Mark Andrews to potential upside at 3.9 on an ugly slate with tight end, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, but I think Gerson was right on. You're going to be playing the tight end that's in your stack. So I'll be playing Hawkinson in my Darnold stacks. I'll be playing K. Dotton in my Baker stacks. Otherwise, cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Agreed.
You better cross those fingers damn hard too.
And the one last thing I had on the Andrews call is Philly has been absolutely a beast against wide receivers. After the first few weeks of the season, they struggled. They've been absolutely monsters ever since. So if they're going to take away the receivers, I think Andrews is the guy that Lamar Jackson's going to be looking for. So I do like him a lot.
Dude, I said on draft night I couldn't believe they got Quinyon Mitchell, man. It's worked out so well for them.
There was him.
Every
Ravens,
year, right?
the Ravens and the Eagles, Steelers. Those are the top, Ravens, Eagles, Steelers are the top 3 teams that always do great. The Cowboys every now and then will be in the conversation, but lately they haven't been.
No.
Agreed. All right, let's get to the running backs.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, Tim, why don't you kick us off here at the top?
Yeah, so again, it's Wednesday, but as of Wednesday, I think this is again a running back slate. I think there are again probably 4 running backs that I want to play in every lineup, and you can only play 3. So I think the first decision of the week is going to be which one of these top end running backs are you going to play. So I'm going to start with Joe Mixon. It has been the Joe Mixon show this year, the resurgence of Joe Mixon. But the one thing that has been the most consistent is Mixon on the road. Right, they have really leaned on him outside of Houston, and they get a great matchup this week against the Jaguars, who, even though a lot of teams pick on them with the passing game, have actually given up a ton to running backs as well. So Joe Mixon's just been an absolute beast. I don't see any reason to go away from him. And just to add one extra thing, he absolutely destroyed them in the exact same Week 13 slate last year as a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. So just kind of coincidence there, but I think it does match up because schematically, it just looks like a Joe Mixon week to me.
Yeah, he was the first name I wrote down as well. Joe Mixon has been a beast this year. Even at that price point, I think he's someone I'm trying to slam into my lineup somehow, some way. All right, Gerson, what you got for your favorite play here at the running back position?
Yeah, I mean, I think running back going to be the position where you're going to want to pay up the most. It's not. There's just so many good running backs this week. It's going to make it very hard. Joe Mixon is definitely one of the top guys, but the other guy I'm looking at is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
We just saw what's their name? Who did they just play?
Oh, you mean talking about Saquon?
Yeah.
Going
So we
crazy,
just saw what that
255.
Saquon did. 255. I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, I mean, I think Kamara not a great runner as Saquon, but I think they do more design plays for like passing with Kamara, so he could probably get a total yard. I mean, I don't know about running yards, but and to be honest, no Olave. Again, we're going back to what we said about 2 weeks ago. They still have the same situation. Taysom Hill is like the second weapon they have after Kamara, and that's it. And you're going back to the Kamara show. His price for me with Kamara, I think is actually pretty decent for his upside. I feel like this is that 1 week. You remember when he went off for 30? I can't remember how many points, but he's my favorite running back player right now. I was gonna go back to the Derrick Henry, but I just don't know. It's just so hard right now with how tight pricing can be this week.
Agreed.
I will say this though. We do mention Tim just mentioned like it's early in the week and injuries. If Braylon Allen injury, I mean if Breece Hall injury happened, that will turn this slate upside down.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Agreed. Let's see. I'll take a guy that's been really good lately. He's got a bit of a tough matchup, but Chase Brown versus Pittsburgh, 0.2. I think his volume alone can get him there. He's involved in the passing game, involved in the running game. Like I said, it's a little bit of a tough matchup versus Pittsburgh, but I think that Chase Brown at his 6.2 price point is a pretty good play as well. Let's see. I'm going to mention a couple of the other guys that we got here. Tony Pollard. Tim has him if Spears is out at 6.3. Gerson, Bijan Robinson is pretty much his copy paste right now. He's put him in there every week.
True.
Kyron Williams at 7.2, and I got Jonathan Taylor at 6.9, and we also have Tim's
lock it in.
Yeah, so Gerson recommended him as a value last week, and now he's my lock of the week. It's Bucky Irving. Every year, right, we talk about the post-buy rookie bump, and I think that's what we saw last week from Bucky Irving. He had, I think, 18 total touches in a blowout game against the Giants, but I think it's clear he has taken over this job, and he gets the absolute best matchup at Carolina. So, even if I think Rachaad White will still get some touches, but if you're telling me some guy's going to get 15 to 20 touches against Carolina for 5,800, how do you not lock that guy in? Especially somebody with the upside we've seen from Bucky Irving. So, yeah, to me, this is just too cheap. He should be 6,000 plus at least. So, yeah, I'm just going to have, I don't know if 100%, but I'm definitely going to adjust the optimizer max on Bucky Irving this week because, I don't see how he fails. I say that now, it's Wednesday, but when I was making lineups, like you said, the first name I clicked this week when I was scrolling through running back, so Joe Mixon, 8K. Okay, who can I fit with Joe Mixon? 5,800, Bucky Irving. That's a lock. So, I know Kareem Hunt kind of bit us in the same spot last week, but I just think he's, in a totally different place in his career. We wanted him to take the reins of this job since week 6, week 7. It looks like they finally gave it to him now. He's just going to run wild this week.
Absolutely. Moving down into the salary savers, we're going to I'm going to just name a couple of guys that are sort of values because of injury. Jeremy McNichols obviously will be the starter if A-Rob, Austin Eckler are both out at 5.4 versus Tennessee. Braylon Allen, we mentioned already, versus Seattle at 5K. If Breece Hall is out, has already looked good in relief of Breece Hall. So if he gets a full workload, wheels up.
Yeah, lock it in. Yeah.
And then Gus Bus has almost zero receiving ability, but at
Oof.
4.3, he's someone you can play if you want at Atlanta, assuming that J.K. Dobbins is out this week. Let's go ahead and move down into the wide receivers now.
And now, wide receivers.
Gerson, I'm gonna go to you first here, and you don't have a lock of the week. So is there a receiver here that I can play the drop for that you want to lock in here?
Yeah, this next
Hollywood.
one. This one right here that I want to talk about.
Let's go.
Lock it in.
Yeah, so I already talked about my stack. I talked about my tight end. I basically, you might as well just already know who my stack of the week going to be, the two. But this guy is Lad McConkey, Georgia standout. Honestly, I didn't have that much confidence in him. He didn't look all athletic on the tape, but he is very fluid. He runs very good route, and he catches what's actually thrown to him, unlike Quentin Johnson. So I feel like Quentin Johnson's gonna roast us one day, probably on Twitter. Be like, I heard what you said. I'll be like, yeah, you want me to give you a hand with that or what? You know? But yeah, Lad McConkey, if he gets targeted almost like I think 20% right now. He's Herbert's go-to guy. He's like his safety blanket.
Yep.
But I think 6.1K is too cheap for him. He's getting targeted. I think he had more. Let's see.
Kind of remind me of Mini Cup from a couple
Yeah.
years ago, right? Like the way that Stafford he had all the first reads.
Yep.
All right, where's Lad McConkey, right? Same thing. Where's Cooper Kupp? Like,
yeah, I mean, 83 yards, 123 yards, 52 yards. I mean, he had another 111-yard game. I mean, the guy he can rack it up in yards. 14 points last week. I guess Monday. 21 points the week before that. He also had a 32-point game against New Orleans at $1,000 cheaper. So I think, like I said, I don't think they're gonna really rely on the Gus Bus and run the ball. I don't think they're really gonna shuffle the bus with Amani Vidal. You know. But I think they're just gonna say, "Hey, Herbert, all right, let's see what you got." You know.
Yep.
McConkey to me, 6.1K, and he is coming out as the highest owned wide receiver right now.
Yep.
I think a lot of that has to do with that Monday night pricing that we talk about. But it's just a great mid-tier play though.
Yeah.
Against Atlanta, again, we've always targeted wide receivers against Atlanta, and McConkey definitely. I really hope AJ Terrell just locks up Quentin Johnson.
Locks him.
Because if he gets 2 touchdowns, I ain't gonna be eating crow, dude.
Yes.
All right, Tim, what you got for your favorite plays here?
Oh man. So I already had Puka as probably my favorite wide receiver play on this slate, and then Geoff came in and on my sheet put Puka is the number 1 matchup on FTN, and I was like, okay, lock it in. Like I almost changed my Bucky play when I saw that because Puka is currently rating out as my number 1 value wide receiver at 7,600. It's just insane. But as Gerson talked about at the top of the segment, right? Like he has been the go-to guy, and the go-to guy for Matthew Stafford is usually 8K plus. I'll just also mention in the week 16 matchup against these New Orleans Saints last year, he had 36 DraftKings points. So a little bit of a defense versus player versus defense, whatever. But it's a volume play, it's a matchup play, everything fits together, and at 7,600, like I think you can fit him in.
Yep.
Right? I don't think he's so expensive that you have to go elsewhere. So yeah, I think McConkey and Puka will probably be where my wide receivers start.
Yeah, I love it. All right, I'll go next here, and I'm gonna hit my lock.
Lock it in.
There you go.
And I'm gonna go with the double drop. I am going with Nico Ballins at Jacksonville at 7.9. In week 4, he had 12 catches on 15 targets for 151 yards and a touchdown. He has the second best matchup on FTN, right behind Puka. Obviously, we talked about Jacksonville's bad defense. They give up the 3rd most points to wide receivers. They're 32. They're 32nd in pass DVOA. So Nico Collins is my lock of the week, and he will be a guy that he's expensive. He's 7.9, but he's a guy that I'm trying to fit into my lineups here if I can find some value to get him in there. So Nico is my lock of the week. Let's go back through one more time here. We still got some receivers to talk about. Gerson, give me another one of your guys.
Yeah, man. So I will talk about Justin Jefferson. Sam Darnold, who was mentioned, back-to-back 24-point game. One guy that hasn't really done a lot of damage in that is Justin Jefferson, sadly, and we had been riding this train for 2 weeks now.
Mhm.
Not every alpha wide receiver can have like back to back, but I mean, we'll forgive him, right, guys? We'll just forgive him. But 8.1K, that was the hardest thing to swallow. I mean, that is pretty pricey, especially when you have great stud running back plays. But as a contrarian play, if I want to pivot, and I have a feeling there's going to be value. I mean, I have a feeling that those ownership on those running backs are going to value running back are going to come up. So if I could go contrarian, I'm going to go with Jefferson. With what's his name, Darnold. I think he's a little motivated. They went out and got
Backup
the backup quarterback for next year, and Daniel Jones. He probably like, wait, what do you guys do? But he probably gonna get a big contract somewhere else, so he's probably not complaining either. So Jefferson to me, we're going back to that game. Arizona 24 implied total. I think Minnesota and Arizona can be a very sneaky shootout game that's not going to be talked about a lot.
Mhm.
I think people are going to focus on other games like the Chargers game, Atlanta, and even Tampa Bay, Carolina. I can see that game shooting out because neither play a pass defense. So, yeah.
I
But
think the best thing that happened to Justin Jefferson last week was Jordan Addison. I think
Yeah.
took him away. They took Jefferson away. Addison goes off, and now you can't double team Jefferson anymore. Now they're like, oh, Addison's here.
Yeah, Hawkinson too. He had a crazy game.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jefferson.
And to be honest, it hasn't been back-to-back 2 games that are quiet for Jefferson. He also had a bad game against the Jaguars. You go look at it 3 weeks ago. So
Yeah, that was just Sam Darnold being terrible.
yeah. But I mean, like, you have 3 games in a row. I mean, I'm hoping that the ownership stays where it's at, 10%. Because if it stays at 10%, it's going to intrigue me to build my roster a little different. Especially in a game like this against Arizona. I'll be honest, I can't even name the starting cornerback for Arizona, so that's how I don't really know Arizona's defense. But yeah, I mean, it's contrarian though. You're not gonna want to play him in a lot of your roster. Just a GPP play, contrarian.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my tournament player that I want to talk about real quick is Mr. AJ Brown. Again, going back targeting the Baltimore pass defense and how trash they've been at 8.3 is expensive. But in tournaments, you need that upside. If you stack him with Jalen Hurts, I think you can get some tremendous upside there. So I love AJ Brown at 8.3. I'm just going to mention the last couple guys that we. Oh, Tim, you haven't gone twice yet. Let me let you go. Give me one more of your guys.
Yeah, one game we haven't really talked about, I think, at all. It's Pittsburgh versus Cincinnati. I guess we did mention Chase Brown, who I do think is a great play. But the kind of, if we're going a defense versus player here, is T. Higgins. He has absolutely killed Pittsburgh. Traditionally, it's usually because they try and take Jamar Chase out of the game. But I think since he came back from injury, T. Higgins has the most consistent volume on that team. We know he can have that big play upside. And I think because it's a divisional matchup and, the defensive rating for Pittsburgh doesn't look great on DraftKings, I think a lot of people are going to skip over T. Higgins, and he might have the highest upside in this mid 6K range. So, again, I haven't looked at his ownership, but I'm guessing he's not going to be very well owned. And so I'm going to have, I'm going to be well over the field on T. Higgins this week because it just seems like a perfect matchup to me.
Yeah, he has the 5th best matchup on FTN, so he's definitely one of the ones up there as well. So that's a good call. Just mention the last few guys we have. George Pickens is on the list. Zay Flowers is on the list. And JSN, who I think is finally kind of taken over for DK Metcalf, who Metcalf's also questionable, which also plays into the fact there. But I like JSN a lot at New York Jets.
Yep.
We'll move down into the salary savers, and Gerson doesn't have any salary savers, but you do, Tim. I had the same guy, so why don't you talk about him?
Yeah, so we talked about it with Evan Ingram. Trevor Lawrence is expected back this week. When he was good, his best. What did I say?
I thought they were saying about. I didn't know he was going to be back. They were saying CJ Beathard might start.
No,
No.
last I heard he was in practice and they're expecting.
Oh, okay.
Well, if it is Trevor Lawrence, I'm playing Brian Thomas Jr. because I think at 5,500 he's just too cheap. His best game this year was against these same Texans earlier in the season, but it's really that. I mean, who else do they have to throw to, right? Evan Ingram's going to be your short kind of slot guy. It's going to be Brian Thomas down the field at 5,500. Great matchup, great ceiling play. Again, there aren't a ton of mid-range plays I love on this slate, and I think Brian Thomas might be my favorite. It's just that simple.
Agreed. I just had one more guy in the salary saver range that I want to talk about, and that's Noah Brown versus Tennessee at 4.4. He has actually taken over Terry McLaurin as the target leader in that offense, which is crazy to think that as good as Terry McLaurin has been, that Noah Brown's been out-targeted him, had 10 targets last week. Gerson got upset at Tim because Gerson had Noah Brown as his sick call, and Tim didn't even bother to look up Noah Brown. He just gave him a red mark, but Noah Brown did actually hit the sick call, and he's been sneaky good over the last few weeks. So
he didn't want me to tie him up in the tally for a sick call of the week. So he's like, I'm going to put him in red to see if he even gives a shit.
But yeah, Noah Brown at 4.4 versus Tennessee is another play that I'd be looking at just based on volume.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the defense.
Defense.
All right, Tim.
Go to Gerson first. I want to see who Gerson. He has no defenses listed. So, do you have any defenses you like this week before I go?
Yeah, I just copied and pasted them. Him defense.
He got the
same two defenses. Yeah. So again, it's Wednesday, but it looks like we talked about it. You're going to want to pay up for these running backs. You're going to want to pay up for these wide receivers. I do not think this looks like a pay up for defense week. So I think my two defensive targets this week are going to be the Jets at home against Seattle at 2,500 and the Colts on the road at New England for 2,800. I think both of them are going to give you a solid 6 to 8 points and, allow you to pay up for everything else. There's not really one defense that just stands out to me this week.
Right. There's no chalk defense.
Yeah.
I put the Pats down there just based on the offense that they're playing against as an alternative, but I agree. I think it's Jets, Colts are the two that I'm looking at, and you're playing one of these cheap defenses this week for sure.
Agreed.
We'll keep it short and sweet on the defense and get to our stacks.
GoingFor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Gerson. So you've been talking all podcast about. And your stack is completely different. So talk about your stack here.
Oh, no, it's not. It's just I didn't edit it. It's Herbert, Disley, and then Young Lad, McConkey. I'm going to call him Young Lad, man. And then London, Drake London to run it back with. It's actually not an expensive stack. It's actually, right now, it's grading out to be my top value stack. So
I was really surprised you did not put Bijan in there. I thought that was your copy paste.
Nah, man. I just if I run that roster, it's just hard to
fit.
The value stack, and I'm gonna keep it there, and then use those other spots to fill in. Like there's so many great running back plays. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna stick with right now. Again, this is early in the week, guys. Like, this is almost basically like our first luck. I mean, to be honest, I barely made it to the show. So, I mean, I was ready for the Thanksgiving party. I just wasn't ready for the dessert, Yeah, but yeah, give me that stack. My favorite value stack for sure.
Good stuff. Tim, what you got for your stack?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Vikings, man. Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and running it back with a guy who let all of us down last week, Marvin Harrison Jr. So hopefully he bounces back this week against the Vikings.
Yeah, good stuff. My stack is going to be pretty expensive. I haven't actually tried to build a roster with these guys yet, but I'm going Jalen Hurts with A.J. Brown and then using Mark Andrews as my bring back. You could go with the receivers, but I do think Andrews, slots in pretty well at that 3.9 price range to help you afford Hurts and A.J. Brown. So that will be my tournament stack for the week. All right, it is time for the sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
As I mentioned already, Gerson did hit on the sick call. Just an update on the season. Tim has now hit 5. Gerson has now hit 5 as well, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I still have my one lonely Nick Westbrook Akini hit 2 weeks ago, but I'll take it. And our guest, I know we haven't had a guest on in a couple of weeks just because of the way the schedule's been shaken out, but our guest has 3 hits. So yeah, they've got more. They
Yes,
got
sir. 3 out of 7. That's a high percentage. I like that.
pretty good percentage. They got 3 times as many as I do in less weeks, so that's tough. But Tim, why don't you kick us off here with your sick call?
Yeah. So again, it is Wednesday, but it looks like what's his name, Jalen Coker, is going to be out. And last week, first of all, let me back up for a second. I told Geoff in the pre-show that when I was running, it's Wednesday, when I was running my projections, one quarterback who came up who I couldn't believe was Bryce Young. And I said, good Lord, can you imagine me putting actual money on Bryce Young? But I do think David Moore at 3,500 is a really good value. He saw 10 targets last week. And more importantly for me, he saw 4 end zone targets. He was Bryce Young's first read on a number of plays. I considered him as a sit call last week, but I thought, I'm going to do it this week. 3,500, David Moore. This dude gets you 8 for 80 and absolutely smashes that 3,500.
Good stuff. I'll go next here, and again, it's Wednesday. We don't have injury news yet, but Darnell Mooney is listed as questionable currently, which slots right up for my guy Ray McLeod versus the Chargers at 4.3. Had a good start to the season, did a lot more than I thought he was going to do, but he's kind of faded over recent weeks. But I do think if he gets a little bit more of an opportunity, he can really shine here. Tough matchup versus the Chargers. But at 4.3, he's a good enough punt, especially if Mooney is going to be out this week. So that's my sick call.
Well, you can build some badass lineups with Herbert, McConkey, and Ray McLeod, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you get the studs that are on the slate for sure. Gerson, what you got for your sick call?
Yeah, my sick call is gonna be Quentin Johnson. Because he's just gonna be. No, I'm just kidding, guys. It's actually gonna be
absolutely lock in Quentin Johnson at this point, man. Damn.
No, fuck that guy. My number one guy, my value, my sick call is gonna be Kendrick Bourne. Yeah. Kendrick Bourne, 3.5K for the New England Patriot. I mean, Drake May can sling it pretty. I mean, he just keeps improving it week in, week out. I mean, we didn't really talk a lot about that game either, but because there really is a lot of good games this week, like the Chargers, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, the Rams, Saints, Philly, Baltimore. Holy crap! And Jacksonville Jaguars, Houston can even go off, Yep. But
tight end slate is terrible. The rest of the slate, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kendrick Bourne, I mean, he just always magically tried, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago he got 18 points at 3.1K. Yeah. And that was supposed to be the Kayshon Boutte week, and it was the Kendrick Bourne week. So I'm hoping for some, magic there. And they're gonna have to. I mean, the Colts defense hasn't been impressive at all this season. So if there's a value play I want to attack, it's definitely gonna be against a terrible defense. So yeah, just give me Bourne at 3.5K. I don't really like. I know Tim and I have done decent, but I don't feel strong about this. I mean, Geoff. I mean, I get it, Geoff. Wink, wink. I'm gonna take a guy that might play. It might be a starter. He's hurt. Darnell's out. I might hit again. Come on. No, I'm kidding.
Hoping for Darnell to be out this week. All right, that wraps the podcast up. I want to thank you both, obviously, for jumping on a Wednesday night. Thank everybody in the chat. Wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Hope
absolutely.
Some good food and win some money in DFS. Let's go around the room real quick, fellas. Give us your Twitter handle and follow about the Facebook.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at KetoDFS. I shouted this out last week. I'm going to do it again. If you want to join our fun lunch money tournament that we do every week, you can tag me at KetoDFS on DraftKings, and I will get you added.
Yeah, good stuff. It's a fun tournament, guys. It's only $5. It's a lot of fun. I actually took it down, I think, for the second time this year. So definitely get in there if you want to. Gerson, what you got?
Yeah, you don't need to remind me. I get a DraftKings alert like every morning at 4:30 in the morning. Here you go, repeat. But no, at Fantasy DFS, the Facebook DFS Roundtable. Hey guys, I'm very thankful for all you guys here.
Yes.
Showing up week in, week out. I know it is a long season, and Thanksgiving is probably our favorite. It's probably our second favorite show, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, number one.
Yeah,
Holiday
Halloween.
season.
This one always runs a little long. So again, happy Thanksgiving. Don't drink and drive.
Yes.
Get a Uber. Get a ride from your parents. Stay on your homie's couch.
Exactly.
But yeah, and don't go out there thinking you're freaking Saquon Barkley and tear your knees on Turkey Bowl. Okay, watch
Yeah.
this is gonna happen to me tomorrow.
Yeah, no
exactly right.
reverse hurdles, please, out there.
Please.
None of that. All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at Geoff Lambert77. You can find me on Blue Sky at the same thing at Geoff Lambert77. There will be no show on Friday, as some of y'all may know, long listeners of the show. I'm in retail, so Black Friday is a bitch. I'm actually working the early shift this year, but even that afterwards, I'm pretty much worn out, so I can't do a show. So that's why we're doing the Wednesday show. Just good luck to everybody. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, and we will see y'all next week.
Go Pack, go!
The Raiders, take the sheep down. Peace.